Hello everyone. Today's story is a special request. I've been asked to read this story for the children in Year 4 at Collingwood Park State School, who are studying the lives of convicts who came to Australia on the First Fleet back in the 1700s from England. And this story was inspired by the life of one of those convicts. Her name was Elizabeth Hayward, and she was the youngest female convict to come to Australia on the First Fleet. And it's been beautifully created by Mark Wilson. It's called Beth, the story of a child convict. Come and have a look and find out about her life. Beth, the story of a child convict by Mark Wilson. I wonder which one's Beth. Looks like they're on a ship, doesn't it? With soldiers. And look, is that another ship? I wonder where they are. Let's find out. How could it have come to this? All I did was steal a dress and a bonnet. The magistrate sentenced me to transportation, and the bailiffs put me in chains on board a ship called the Lady Penrhyn. During the voyage, I met Molly. She told me she wasn't a convict, but her mother was, and had died of a fever just a week after we set sail. Molly's eyes were full of tears, and she looked so scared, so I gave her my little rag doll, the only thing I owned. That was just over 3 months ago, and now here we are in this strange new land. I guess this must be Molly, and this must be the rag doll. So this girl must be Beth. Looks like she's taking good care of her, just as if she were a little sister, doesn't it? I wonder if this is Beth. Look, she's got chains around her wrists. And this must be the strange new land. Today, when we came ashore, the sky lit up with bright flashes of lightning as a fierce storm swept over us. I was so frightened as the Marine ordered us over the side of the swaying ship, but I had to put my fear aside so I could help Molly. Neither of us dared to look down until we stepped into the longboat below. Goodness, look, looks like there's a lot of rain. They're climbing down. They must have been scared. When the boat approached the shore, Molly pointed at a group of natives standing at the tree line. "Do you think they'll hurt us?" "I don't think so, Molly," I said, but I was just as worried as she was. "Get over the side, the lot of you," growled a Marine as the longboat slid into shore. I helped Molly down to the sand and realised how good it felt to be on dry land again, even in this strange new place. I wonder how it must look to them. I guess they've travelled such a long way. What can we see? There are tents, and this is yellow. Maybe they're building tents or erecting tents on the sand. And look, chains. And what's this? I think I know what that is. I think that's a sort of a whip called a cat o' nine tails. Each one of these is a very thin piece of leather, and the soldiers would use that to whip the convicts with to help keep them in line. Ooh, pretty horrible stuff, hey? Let's see what happens. We were met by Mr. Brady, the surgeon from our ship, who told us we were to be his servants. He told us to carry his belongings to the hospital at the end of the beach. Once he had unpacked at the hospital, he told us our duties were to help with the cooking and to get a garden started to grow fresh vegetables. Mr. Brady sat down in the shade of a tree when we left to collect firewood. I saw him open his journal and he began to write. I guess this must be the letter he was writing. Let's see what it says. February 6th, 1788. Now that some tents have been put up for them, all the women and children have come ashore. Some of them will still have to sleep outside. They came here with only the clothes they were wearing, as somehow all the women's belongings were left on the wharf back in England. I have a convict child, Beth, and a young orphan girl, Molly, helping me now. I've put them to work clearing the rocks from around the hospital tent and fetching wood for the cooking fires. The natives are not coming close, but keep watching. Governor Philip wants us all to be kind to them. There's some words missing there. Something about to know them. I'm not sure how long. That's all we can see. Look, I guess this is Beth and Molly moving the things that they've been asked to move by Mr. Brady. That's the second reference we've seen to the word natives, isn't it? I think that must be the Aboriginal people who lived there before the convicts and the soldiers arrived. Oh, looks like they're having a bit more fun now, doesn't it? It's been months now since we arrived, and my hands are cut and bleeding from digging rocks out of the ground. Molly has splinters from collecting wood for the fires. After work today, we walked up the hill behind the hospital, and I smiled as Molly rolled and tumbled in the grass. It was the very first time I heard her laugh. Looks like they're having fun. That's nice, isn't it? And look at the birds. Wow. Beautiful. Ah, look. This must be the Aboriginal people. It looks like they're talking. Are they trading with some of the soldiers? Wow, look at all the animals. Let's see what it says. The natives have been coming to the forest behind the hospital lately. Molly waved to one of them, who waved back, and I thought that one day we might be able to be friends with them. I saw Mr. Brady writing in his journal again tonight. Look, this must be what Mr. Brady's writing. Let's see. April 22nd, 1788. This initially seemed an ideal place for a settlement. The soil seemed good for growing crops, but on closer inspection is nothing more than thick black sand. The trees are not good for timber, and the ground is covered in enormous black and red ants. Some natives came near to us this morning. They brought us some wild berries. They carry long spears which they use to catch fish. We managed to swap a looking glass for the berries, 2 fish and a war club. My servants, Beth and Molly, are still sleeping outside at night, as all the tents are full. Molly complained that a rat ran across her legs last night. There are many wildflowers growing something in the trees. It looks like he's recording all the things he's seeing and hearing and experiencing, doesn't it? Let's see what else they see and experience. Molly and I have been ordered to help dig a garden bed to plant vegetables. Many of the other convicts are doing the same. Look, looks like they're using sticks to dig the soil. Everyone in the colony will share whatever we can grow, because the food brought from England won't last very long. Each of us gets a certain amount of food called rations, which have to last all week. The women and children get less food than the men, which I don't think is fair, as we do almost as much work as the male convicts. Look what's written here. By order of Governor Philip, food rations. Food rations to Marines and convicts each week. Beef, 7 pounds, or pork, 4 pounds. Dried peas, 3 pints. Bread or flour, 7 pounds. Butter, 6 ounces. Flour, 1 pound, or rice, ½ a pound. Female convicts, children, and Marine wives will receive 2/3 of male convict ration. Sounds like quite a lot of meat to me, but I guess they were working so hard that they needed all that food to keep up their energy. I do hope it's going to last. Oh, that's the rag doll, isn't it? It is now many weeks since we planted the vegetables, but nothing has grown. Our rations have now been made even smaller to make the food last through the winter. The good news is that we now sleep in one of the women's tents, so we are at least dry at night. Well, that's good news, isn't it? But I wonder why there's space for them in the women's tent when there wasn't before. What's happened to the women who slept there when they first arrived? I wonder if they died. Molly talked about her ma last night. She was beautiful, Molly told me. She brushed my hair every night and told me that one day we wouldn't be poor anymore. Tears welled up as Molly told me. The very last thing Ma said to me was, "Please don't forget me, my little angel." I hugged Molly tight and said, "I promise I will remember her too, just as if she was my Ma." Oh, how sad. This afternoon we stood silently and watched as the last 2 convict ships sailed out of the bay. Our last hope of returning to England was gone. I saw Mr. Brady writing in his journal after the ships left. November 19, 1788. The vegetable crops have failed. There is some panic that the rest of the food will run out soon. We are not able to catch enough fish or animals to feed everyone. We arrived here with over 500 cows, sheep, horses, pigs, geese and chickens, most of which have died or wandered off into the bush. Governor Phillip has sent HMS Sirius to the Cape of Good Hope for food, but the journey will take 6 months or more. There has been trouble between the convicts and natives lately. It's getting serious, and Governor Phillip wants the problem resolved. To make matters worse, the soldiers are becoming quite rebellious. They say, and then I can just read the words, should be abandoned. Goodness, I guess everybody's getting scared about what might happen. Even the soldiers are going to be hungry. What on earth's going to happen? I hope they'll manage to survive. The winter winds and rain have now given way to warm days and sunshine. Wild flowers are growing around the bay, and brightly coloured birds flitter everywhere. There's not enough food for everyone, so I've been ordered to collect mussels from the bay each day, and Molly has to collect berries in the forest. When she does, she feels the natives are watching, even though she can't see them. It is Christmas Day now, but no one is celebrating because there's hardly any food to eat. Do you know what mussels are? It says she's been ordered to collect mussels from the bay. They're a sort of shellfish that cling to rocks. I'm guessing everyone must be pretty scared by now and very hungry. After Christmas, the Marines made us work even harder in the summer heat, but the weather is finally starting to cool down. A few days ago, when we went to bed, I noticed Molly was a bit restless. She began to cry, and I held her tight until the dawn sunlight shone through the flap of the tent. I made Molly stay in the tent when I went to work each morning. Doesn't look very well, does she? Her face looks a bit blotchy. What's Mr. Brady written in his journal? Let's see. April 23, 1789. There are now so many sick with dysentery and scurvy that there is no place to put them all. Dysentery is a horrible disease where it makes you vomit and have diarrhea, and it can be very dangerous because you become dehydrated and people can die from dysentery. And scurvy is another condition caused by people not having enough fruit or vegetables, not enough vitamin C in their diet, and it causes the cells in their bodies to break down, and again people can die of scurvy too. Let me read this bit again. There are now so many sick with dysentery and scurvy that there is no place to put them all. The lack of fresh fruit and vegetables means that this outbreak of scurvy will only get worse. I've been giving many of the sick some of the local berries or sarsaparilla vine leaves boiled in water, which the natives use. It seems to help, but there's just not enough of it to treat everyone. To add to our problems, there has recently been an outbreak of smallpox, mainly amongst the natives. Many have died, and we're treating others behind the hospital. The outlook for them is rather grim, I'm afraid. And then, I wonder if that's rations have been cut again, and there is something left, and what? It doesn't sound good, doesn't it, does it? Smallpox, that's another horrible disease. It's a little bit like chicken pox in that you get blisters, but it's a lot worse, a lot more serious, and people die from it. Doesn't sound... After work today, I hurried home through the rain and found Molly curled up on the bed crying. Her breath was short and fast, and there were dark blotches on her skin. "Help me!" I yelled to anyone who could hear, but no one came. I put my arms around Molly and struggled up the hill with her to the hospital. Guess this must be the hospital tent. Look, here's little Molly. Oh, what's going to happen? When I got there, the surgeon looked at Molly and said there was nothing he could do for her. He told me to put her on the ground outside the tent. He gave me some berries for Molly, but she was so weak she couldn't swallow. Just lay there with tears in her eyes. I wonder if she's got scurvy. I gently stroked her forehead and told her the story she told me that night in the tent. It was a story about her ma and how she loved her. Molly gave me a sad little smile, hugged the rag doll between us and closed her eyes. Through my tears I whispered, "I'll never forget you, my little angel." I think Molly's died. I stood on the headland and watched as HMS Sirius sailed back into Sydney Cove. It would have food and medicine on board, and everyone was waving and cheering as they ran down to the dock to meet it. I didn't cheer or wave. I just wiped the tears from my eyes as I thought of little Molly laughing and tumbling through the long grass on the hill. Oh, I guess it was too late for Molly. How very, very sad. Afterword. It was a miracle that so many convicts survived that terrible journey from England, but on arrival at Sydney Cove they faced hardships never dreamed of. Many died either from disease or starvation. No one really knows how smallpox came to the little colony, but it was a disease that killed many, mainly Aboriginal people. Scurvy, however, was a disease caused by a lack of fresh fruit and vegetables. It was 2 years before the first crops were successful, and a triumph of the human spirit that the little colony at last prevailed. Elizabeth Hayward, the inspiration for this story, was the youngest female convict with the First Fleet. She was strong-willed, resilient, and managed to survive those first precarious years at Sydney Cove. She had several children and eventually settled in Van Diemen's Land, now Tasmania. Elizabeth lived to be 63 years old, which I guess was a very good age considering all that she'd been through. I hope you enjoyed that story and found it as interesting as I did. See you next time.